Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Kathy Antoine. I am a mechanical engineer, and I am very honored to be your MC for this webinar. Welcome to this webinar organized by the Universal Peace Federation. Our theme for today is Together, Fostering a Culture of Peace in the Nation. We give a very special welcome to our panelists. I want to also welcome all the viewers who are joining us online. Now, allow me to tell you a bit about the organization which organized this forum, the Universal Peace Federation, UPF for short. The Universal Peace Federation is a global network of individuals and organizations dedicated to building a world of peace centered on universal spiritual and moral values. It promotes interfaith cooperation and mutual understanding based on the principles of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universally shared value. You can learn more about us at our website, upf.org. We celebrated the 47th Independence Anniversary of Saint Lucia on this past Sunday. It is now a good opportunity to gather together in this forum and reflect on where we came from and the great accomplishment that we have made so far as an independent nation. We all look forward to a better future for this nation, a wonderful land, living in peace and harmony on our beautiful island of St. Lucia. At this time, I would like to introduce to you Mr. Remy Topier, who will give the welcome remarks. Mr. Topier is the director of the Universal Peace Federation in St. Lucia. He is originally from France, but has been living with his family in St. Lucia for 29 years. He has 3 children and 4 grandchildren. One of his main efforts is to strengthen families as an essential way to break the cycle of poverty and reduce violent and criminal behavior. He has conducted numerous workshops for conflict resolution and character education in schools and youth groups. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Remy Topier.
Thank you for your introduction and good evening, everyone. It's my great honor to welcome all of you and the viewer who are joining us online to follow this conference. And especially, I really want to welcome all our presenters tonight. They took time to reflect about the theme, Together, Fostering a Culture of Peace in the Nation. And so tonight, we are very honored to be able to listen to their thoughts and insights. They will really share their hearts with us. So when we speak of a culture of peace, what are we really speaking about, in fact? Why do we need a culture of peace? Or what do we expect from it? So maybe you would say, well, in the culture of peace, we would live peacefully with one another, be happy to be together. We would live in harmony. We would experience joy and happiness. Yes, in fact, all of this, and that's what we want. But not just a temporary joy or happiness. We want really happiness, a true happiness that will satisfy us. We want a lasting happiness, don't we? So the well-known American psychologist Martin Seligman explained that building lasting happiness is not about constant pleasure or continuous success. He says rather, it's about creating a stable inner foundation, one strong enough to withstand stress, loss, and change. He emphasizes the importance of character development. And then we have also a very interesting, if we look at the longest running happiness study conducted by Harvard University, we can also get some interesting insight about the happiness. So this study began in 1938 and has followed participants and their descendants for more than 87 years. Their research shows that strong positive relationships are the #1 predictor of lifelong happiness, health, and longevity. So even their research suggests some practical steps. For example, prioritize one meaningful conversation each day, resolve conflicts quickly, express appreciation often. That's some advice they give. So maybe you are wondering, why speak about lasting happiness when discussing about a culture of peace? Well, that's just to let us realize that, in fact, a culture of peace should conduct or bring lasting happiness. And in fact, we'll see that cannot be lasting peace without lasting happiness too. But lasting happiness is built on strong character and strong relationships. So if we want to foster a true culture of peace, then these are some of the qualities that we must nurture within ourselves and within our communities. So anyway, we are grateful for the presenters that will share their thoughts about all this. Once again, welcome, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Remy. We really appreciate your illustrations on the connection between peace and happiness. Now we are very excited to hear from our youth leader presenters this evening. Our first panelist will be Davian Alexander. Davian Alexander is a 19-year-old educator and advocate for youth development and cultural preservation in Saint Lucia. She currently serves as the CARICOM Deputy Youth Ambassador and is a member of the Regional Youth Advisory Group, where she works to ensure young people's voices are reflected in the regional development agenda. Her commitment to service is evident in her roles as president of her district youth and sports council and assistant secretary for the NEMO Council within her constituency. She is especially passionate about cultural identity and national progress, believing that preserving our heritage and Creole language is essential to our prosperity. She also advocates for youth safety and mental health, viewing regional violence as a public health crisis requiring urgent collective action. Her goal is to help create a society where every young person is empowered, protected, and equipped to succeed. Davian Alexander.
Good evening, everyone. When violence erupts in our communities, we often ask the question, who was harmed? But as a teacher, I have learned that this is the wrong question. Because violence never just harms one person. A fight in the school hallway doesn't leave just one child hurt. It leaves a fracture in the classroom. It shakes the confidence of the quiet child watching, and it hardens the heart of the one who feels unprotected. It plants fear where curiosity and growth were meant to happen. This Sunday, we celebrated 47 years of independence under the powerful theme, Du vin ensemble, nourishing our people, strengthening our nation. Yet, as we reflect here today on the theme, fostering a culture of peace in the nation, I must ask these questions. How can we nourish a people who are anxious? How can we strengthen a nation that feels unsafe? How can we build peace when we have grown so accustomed to living with fear? If we are honest, the greatest threat to us is not external. It is the quiet normalization of violence within our homes, our schools, and our streets. So the real question is, are we willing to break the culture of fear so that we can build a culture of peace? We have built higher walls and louder alarms, not because of passing storms, but because of the permanent climate of violence that we've simply grown to live with. We check the news for the latest tragedy with the same detachment we use to check the weather. This is our first barrier to the theme. We cannot foster what we have forgotten to feel. Every day, I look at students who carry trauma like a second skin. I see young men who view the street as their only sanctuary because they've lost faith in the structures that were meant to protect them. This violence has poisoned the wells from which our youth drink. And our theme says together, but our reality is every man for himself. When we look away from a grieving mother because it wasn't our son, we are tearing another stitch in the fabric of our Saint Lucia. We have fostered a culture where accountability is a ghost. We have a not my business attitude that has allowed the darkness to settle in. And James Baldwin said it perfectly. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. We can never create a new future for ourselves if we refuse to face the root of our stagnation. And as an independent nation, we pride ourselves on being one family under God. We portray ourselves as a God-fearing nation, a Christian nation where our faith connects us to one another. However, how often do our actions match our words? Are we only a God-fearing nation because we go to church on a Sunday or a Saturday? Or are we a God-fearing nation because we embody what Christ asks of us? For many of us, God has become a one-day-a-week ritual rather than a daily reality. We have lost faith in the church and in each other. We call ourselves a Christian nation, but we have abandoned the accountability that Christ demands of us. Our greatest enemy isn't the gunman. It is our own indifference. We have a form of godliness, but we are failing to be our brother's keeper. And I love this quote from Elie Wiesel. It says, the opposite of love is not hate. It is indifference. In truth, to see another human being hurting and feel nothing is a cancer many of us have found comfort in. Hate, love, these are both feelings, but indifference, that carries no feeling. And that is the scary truth we have learned to live in. The theme says fostering. The term fostering is a verb. It is the deliberate effort. It means we don't wait for peace to happen. We build it. And as a teacher, I believe this starts by giving our youth a way to turn their pain into art, their anger into poetry, and their trauma into a new vision for their lives. Peace is not a gift that falls from the sky. It is a structure we build brick by brick through mentorship, through justice, and through the refusal to stay silent. We must look at our youth not as a threat, but as a harvest to be saved. And as I end, I want to say this to you. Independence is not just a flag. It is the responsibility to care for one another. On this 47th anniversary, Let us stop adjusting our lives to fit the violence. Let us instead adjust our lives to demand peace. Let us honor the lives lost by becoming the one family we claim to be. May we find the courage to form a culture of peace rather than a culture of survival. May we finally find the courage to deserve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Davian. We really appreciate you being here and sharing with us your profound thoughts. Now, I would like to introduce to you Mr. Quinn Saint-Gis. Quinn Saint-Gis is a journalist at Saint Lucia Times News Online. He is an award-winning journalist. He is the founder and executive director of the Game Changers Hub, a St. Lucian platform dedicated to amplifying Caribbean achievements and fostering cross-professional learning. He has a passion for youth and national development. Ladies and gentlemen, Quinn Saint-Gis.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for your kind words of introduction. Good evening, everybody, and happy independence to you. I trust that you are doing well and feeling as good as you look. I must say that it's a privilege for me to be here tonight to speak on this topic of together fostering a culture of peace in the nation. When I first saw this topic, a question came to mind immediately. Why should we strive for peace as a nation? I mean, why is it even important? Why should we care? And in thinking about it, I came up with three incentives, three reasons why we should do so. The first one I found is that there is actually a financial incentive to fostering peace as a nation. You see, the Institute of Economics and Peace consistently finds a strong correlation between a country's ranking in the Global Peace Index and its GDP per capita. Countries that improve its peacefulness see consistently higher GDP growth rates than those that deteriorate. So basically, in other words, peaceful nations spend less money on crime fighting and therefore have more time and more finances as well to spend those assets on economic and social development. There is a financial incentive for peace. There's also a social incentive for peace. When conflict erupts in a country, those with the means often leave the nation. That is those who have the money to leave. And these are often educated and skilled workers like doctors, like engineers, like teachers who flee the country. And as a result, that creates a severe effect called the brain drain that cripples a nation's ability to develop healthcare, education, and technological services, for generations. Peace keeps St. Lucians in St. Lucia, and we do need St. Lucians in St. Lucia so that we can continue developing. There's also a spiritual incentive for peace. You see, St. Lucia is predominantly a Christian nation, and in the Old Testament, there's a word called shalom, and they utilize that word for peace. But shalom goes far beyond a ceasefire. It signifies completeness, it signifies soundness, welfare, and prosperity. It implies that everything is in the right place, functioning exactly how God intended. Shalom is linked to national and personal flourishing. When a nation or individual experiences shalom, they are thriving spiritually and economically. The most famous blessings in the Bible emphasize peace as the ultimate gift from God. The Bible says in Numbers chapter 6 verse 26 that the Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. The Lord give you shalom. The Bible and other spiritual books present peace as a core characteristic of God's nature and the ultimate goal of his interaction with humanity. There is a spiritual incentive for peace. So how do we achieve this peace? More so, how do we achieve a culture of peace, as our title says, as our topic says? And further, how do we do this together? How do we do this as a nation? Well, let's explore the word culture first. In this sense, culture is defined by the Merriam-Webster dictionary as the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization. It should be said that if we are to foster a culture based on this definition, then it most likely will come from some authority, because these authorities are the ones who really set the mandate for the culture. Somebody needs to establish those goals, and somebody needs to hold the group accountable, which means that in order to achieve a culture of anything, it must start from the top, and therefore it must start from our leaders behaving in a way that promotes a culture of peace. Next, culture is further developed by members of the group. It is fostered by members of the group, following the example of the leaders and encouraging each other to grow along with the group's agenda or goals. Having said this, I want you to really focus on Saint Lucia. In particular, let's go to a particular time. Let's look at our recent election cycle, our general election cycle. Look at both political parties, their candidates, and their loudest supporters. You tell me, is this the best example of what we want peace to look like going forward? You see, when we think about national pride, we tend to think in silos. We spend independence and the independence period singing about how we are proud Saint Lucians, and this is a Saint Lucia that we allegedly love. But there is something that we must consider. You see, Saint Lucia is not the land under our feet. Saint Lucia is not the Sulphur Springs or the Pitons. Saint Lucia is the man next to you on the bus. Saint Lucia is a co-worker that you just cannot stand. Saint Lucia is that Labour Party or Flower supporter whose opinions just irk you. You can't get along with them. Saint Lucia is a brother or sister from a different religious faith who you disagree with on matters of spirituality. Saint Lucia is us, and in times of conflict, we really see who we are as a people. If we cannot deal with conflict and differences of views and opinions, then we will never have peace. So therefore, that is how we really need to get to peace. Because at the core of peace is tolerance, and at the core of tolerance is love, and at the core of love is God. When we learn to love each other, only then we can learn to live with God. And that is where we can find peace. With that being said, thanks for listening to me, and shalom be to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saint-Just. I really appreciated you bringing awareness to brain drain in St. Lucia. We have a lot of amazing St. Lucians who are not here to develop our country. So thank you so much. We're moving right along. I will now introduce to you Sheikh Alphonse. Sheikh Alphonse is currently a career educator at the Ministry of Education. He started playing the African drum at the age of 4. He was awarded a 3-year music scholarship by the Saint Lucia School of Music at the age of 11 to pursue studies in classical music and percussion. He has been a member of the Saint Lucia School of Music Jazz Band and Saint Lucia National Youth Orchestra. Sheikh is one of the outstanding Saint Lucian musicians who collaborated with Taiwan for the 2023 Saint Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival and the Taiwan Saint Lucia Cultural Exchange. In the realm of sports, he has represented Saint Lucia regionally in Martinique, in Dominica, and in Guadeloupe. Let's give a warm welcome to Sheikh Alphonse.
Good evening to all. I hope that peace is finding each and every one of us gathered here today. Many things to discuss. However, I do have to keep it brief. My main contribution on this topic that we have here today, and of course, I would like to mention it, celebrating the anniversary of independence together, fostering the culture of peace in the nation. Uh, when I think about peace, peace is a very, very complex yet simple topic. Peace, in essence, is a state of being at ease. But when we look at the root of peace, we realize that in our world, uh, there seems to be no ground in place. And I would like to speak to it on three levels, specifically individually, as an individual, socially, and as it relates to how things are governed globally. Uh, Individually, when we are young, we come into the world being peaceful. It is a state of being that we are most accustomed with, especially if our needs are met, then peace can be accentuated throughout many, many years. However, what ends up happening a lot of the time in our youth is when they are young, there's a lack of resources and there's a lack of love from the family. And that causes the child to develop calluses. And as we go over the years, we get rejections, we get heartbreak, we get all sorts of things. And then you become somebody who's resistant to the outer world. But naturally, you really want to be at peace with everybody, but you're resistant to the natural world, the outer world, sorry. Now, socially, this means that when we are dealing with each other, there's a natural barrier between the two of us. There's something that says, hey, this is my space, this is your space. You have to respect my boundaries, I have to respect yours. Granted, boundaries are necessary, but most people are naturally not in a space where they want to be receptive to one another. So this causes rifts in all institutions. So whether you are in government, whether you're in the private sector, relationships are more or less transactional. So there's no affection, there's no understanding, and there's no feeling behind it. This causes a society to be numb. And then it reflects in how countries are governed, because countries are governed by appearances and what the people may think they want, but what is not essential to bringing about peace. Um, Ultimately, as a people in Saint Lucia, it is upon the stress is upon you to decide whether you want to be peaceful or not. Nobody can force you to be a peaceful citizen. Ultimately, that decision is left to you. And that is why it is important, especially as a career educator, the number one place we have to start is with our young people, especially in the primary school. These are the ages where you have to give a lot of love, understanding, and curb certain dispositions that children may have. Now, the reality is nowadays, most kids are left to their own devices. Yeah, they come to school. However, the teacher can only do so much within a short period of time because we have to give instruction as well. But the reality is, most of that has to be done at home within the community. At home, the onus is on the parents to ensure that they teach their kids love, peace, and understanding. Because if parents do not instill these disciplines in the child early, it's a recipe for disaster. And we see where it goes when kids are not loved. They go on the streets. They turn their blind eye to the faith that is bestowed upon everybody. And the reality is they commit atrocities. And these are things that they have to reckon with later on in life. And it causes a ripple effect because now in a society that is generally peaceful, we are seeing lives taken away shortly due to violence and all these other catastrophes. But we have to ask ourselves, are we contributing to the mess, or are we, in each action we take, ensuring that peace is the message? And with that, I would like to thank you for listening to my contribution, and all the best.
Thank you so much, Sheikh. We really appreciate your time, your unique perspective, and your musings on various solutions. Thank you. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Nina William. Nina William is a young professional from Choiseul and was raised in a close-knit community where she developed strong values of humility, resilience, and service. Nina entered the workforce at 16, beginning her career in banking and finance. After 6 years in domestic banking, she transitioned into financial regulation and now serves as a financial regulator at the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, contributing to financial stability and national development. While working full-time, she earned a Bachelor of Science in Management Studies from the UWI Global Campus, Saint Lucia. During the final stage of her degree, she welcomed twin daughters, drawing strength and motivation from motherhood and the support of her family. An entrepreneur at heart, Nina also runs a catering service and weekend pizza venture. She is currently pursuing an MBA in finance and remains committed to personal growth, community upliftment, and inspiring others to pursue their purpose with courage and integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Nina William.
Good evening, distinguished guests, fellow presenters, and proud citizens of Saint Lucia. Across the world today, more than 100 million people are displaced due to conflict and instability. Many developing nations continue to face economic fragility, social unrest, and institutional breakdown. Even within our Caribbean region, we are not immune to rising crime, economic vulnerability, and the pressures of global uncertainty. Yet tonight, as we celebrate 47 years of independence, St. Lucia stands not as a nation without challenges, but as a nation with choice. A choice to build peace, a choice to protect stability, a choice to move devant ensemble. As we reflect on tonight's theme, together fostering a culture of peace in the nation, and St. Lucia's independence theme, devant ensemble, nourishing our people, strengthening our nation, I invite us to consider three essential truths: the importance of peace as the foundation of development, our individual and collective responsibility in cultivating it, and the role of strong institutions in sustaining it. Peace is more than just the absence of conflict. It is the presence of justice, opportunity, and security. Without peace, there can be no sustainable development. Without peace, businesses cannot grow. Without peace, investors withdraw. And without peace, families live in fear rather than hope. As a financial regulator, I see firsthand how stability underpins national confidence. Investors place their trust in countries where governance is strong, laws are respected, and systems are transparent. Financial stability is not merely about numbers, but it's about public trust. Peace strengthens our economy, safeguards our financial system, and creates an environment where our children can dream without limitation. When we speak of nourishing our people, we must understand that nourishment extends beyond food and shelter. It includes access to opportunity, fairness within our systems, and confidence in our institutions. Peace feeds progress, and progress strengthens the nation. However, peace does not begin in boardrooms or legislation. Instead, it begins with people. It begins in our homes, where children first learn respect. It grows in our schools, where tolerance is cultivated. It flourishes in our communities, where differences are managed with dialogue rather than division. Each of us contributes to peace through integrity by choosing honesty over corruption. We contribute through accountability by taking responsibility for our actions. We contribute through civic engagement by participating constructively rather than destructively. We also contribute through economic responsibility by supporting local enterprise, complying with regulations, and contributing fairly to national development. In my profession, compliance is not simply a regulatory obligation. It is a pillar of peace. When financial institutions operate transparently, when businesses uphold ethical standards, and when public resources are safeguarded, we reduce inequality, prevent exploitation, and protect the most vulnerable among us. A peaceful nation is built when citizens trust not only one another, but also the systems that serve them. Independence granted Saint Lucia political sovereignty. However, sovereignty requires stewardship. Strong institutions, including our regulatory bodies, our courts, our law enforcement agencies, and our financial systems, are guardians of order. They create predictability, and predictability reduces conflict. Economic instability often breeds social instability. Where there is limited opportunity, frustration can take root. Therefore, strengthening our financial systems, promoting inclusion, empowering small businesses, and protecting consumers are not merely economic priorities, they are strategies for preserving peace. Duval's sum reminds us that progress is collective. Government alone cannot secure peace. The private sector alone cannot secure peace, and citizens alone cannot secure peace. However, together we can. Together we can build systems that are fair. Together we can foster dialogue instead of vision. Together we can ensure that opportunity reaches every community, whether rural or urban, young or old, vulnerable or established. As we commemorate 47 years of independence, let us remember that peace is the foundation of development. Peace requires personal responsibility, and peace is protected by strong and trustworthy institutions. If we truly desire to nourish our people and strengthen our nation, then we must do more than celebrate. We must commit, we must act, and we must lead. Let our independence not be remembered only as a date in history, but lived as a daily practice of integrity, accountability, and unity. Let it be seen in how we govern, how we conduct business, how we resolve differences, and how we treat one another. There is a proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Saint Lucia, at 47 years strong, we are called not merely to exist as an independent nation, but to excel as a peaceful one. We are called to move forward with courage, to strengthen what protects us, to nourish what sustains us, and to safeguard what unites us. Let us rise together, build together, and lead together. Duva Assam, today and always. May God continue to bless our beautiful island nation. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you so much for reminding us about the critical choices we make every day and how it can contribute to our culture of peace. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Olivian Weeks. Olivian Weeks is a social researcher. She has earned a certificate in social work at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. She has achieved first-class honors, a first-class honors Bachelor of Science in Social Work in 2024 at the UE Global Campus Social Work Program. Olivian is deeply passionate about social work, gender equality, and advocating for sexual and reproductive health. Her dedication to these causes has led her to work as a social researcher, contributing her expertise to a variety of national, regional, and international organizations focused on social development projects. Olivian was a volunteer at the Saint Lucia National Youth Council and now currently serves as secretary of the board of directors to the Saint Lucia Planned Parenthood Association. She is also the co-founder of Ayanola Womanhood, a non-profit organization dedicated to raising awareness about reproductive health disorders. I present to you Olivian Weeks.
Hi, good night, everyone. Hope all is going well tonight.
Good night.
Tonight, I'm just going to speak to you for a few minutes and share my perspective on our independence. So on February 22nd, 2026, our beloved island home celebrated its 47th year of independence. For 47 years, Saint Lucia has stood as a sovereign nation, resilient, proud, and full of promise. Yet, as we reflect on our independence, we must ask ourselves, what does true independence really mean? Fostering a culture of peace begins with each of us, in our homes, within our families, across our communities, and throughout our institutions. In my view, true independence is not only about political freedom. It also means freeing ourselves from the social challenges that continue to affect our society, particularly crime and violence among our youth. As a nation, we have made meaningful strides in addressing these issues. Through policy reform and strengthened police interventions, progress has been evident. In 2025, serious crimes, including burglaries, robberies, and narcotic offenses, declined by 16%. This is commendable and shows that strategic effort can produce tangible results. However, even as we celebrate progress, we cannot ignore reality. Though we are only in the month of February, several homicides have already been recorded on our island. This reminds us that while enforcement is necessary, it is not sufficient. If we truly want to foster a culture of peace, we must go deeper. We must address the root causes. To begin doing so, we must strengthen the most fundamental system in society, the family. In social work, we are taught that families are the cornerstone of society. It is within the family that children first learn values, norms, and behaviors. It is where they develop emotional regulation, conflict resolution skills, and the understanding of right and wrong. Systems theory further teaches us that individuals do not exist in isolation. They function within interconnected systems such as the family, community, institutions, and society as a whole. When one system is weakened, the effects ripple outward. Therefore, if we are serious about reducing crime and violence, we must place intentional focus on strengthening the family unit. The experiences individuals have within their families lay the foundation for their behaviors and competencies later in life. When children grow up in environments marked by instability, unresolved trauma, or lack of guidance, they may become more vulnerable to negative peer influence and harmful choices. But when families are supported, communities become stronger. And when communities are stronger, the nation becomes more peaceful. There are many social support systems we can introduce and strengthen to help achieve this. Parenting education programs can equip parents with practical tools to navigate the challenges of raising children in today's society. These programs can also create safe spaces for parents to heal from their own childhood experiences that may otherwise hinder their ability to serve as positive and healthy role models. Additionally, increased access to affordable childcare and subsidized healthcare services can relieve financial and emotional stress within households. When families are less burdened, they are better able to nurture and guide their children effectively. Community-based interventions are equally vital. After-school programs, mentorship initiatives, and youth engagement activities provide structured, positive environments for young people, particularly for single-parent households that may need additional support. These initiatives keep youth engaged, they help them discover their talents and connect them with the positive role models who reinforce constructive values. By strengthening these systems, we reduce vulnerability. We give individuals the tools to navigate life's challenges without resorting to crime and violence. We replace hopelessness with opportunity, frustration with guidance, and we replace isolation with support. Fostering a culture of peace is not the responsibility of law enforcement alone. It is not solely the responsibility of the government. It belongs to all of us, parents, educators, faith leaders, social workers, community members, and especially our youth. Peace is cultivated every day in moments in how we resolve conflict, how we discipline our children, speak to one another, support those who are struggling. It is built through compassion, accountability, and collective action. As Saint Lucia continues its journey beyond 47 years of independence, let us redefine what freedom truly means. Let us commit to strengthening our families, empowering our communities, and supporting one another with intention and unity. Because when families are strong, communities are resilient, and violence decreases. When we work together, we do more than reduce crime, we build a nation grounded in peace. Together, we can foster a culture of peace in Saint Lucia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olivian. We really heard a through thread with some of our presenters with the importance of the family. So, and I really appreciate your unique perspective on this. I think this is the end of our.
I can say just a few words.
Yes, okay.
I really want to thank everybody for their contribution. That each one of you came from different angle, but we are on the same boat, we can say, and we have to work together, that's for sure. And then we have a culture of peace, or to falter, there is a different level to bring a culture of peace. Like you said, the individual level, we have to become mature person, a person of peace. That means also understand why we are here, why the Creator God created us, for what, and then the family level, how we can function well also as a husband and wife, as parents and children, and then in the community level, and then finally the national level. So there are different levels of peace, and the most difficult usually is the individual one. If we will all be persons of peace, mature, who think of others first instead of thinking me first, then surely the relationship would be much easier. So thank you for all your contribution. There is still a lot to do and to reflect, but together, I'm sure we can advance in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Remy. Thank you very much, panelists. It was wonderful seeing you and hearing from you today. And I would like to wish everybody a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Everyone, enjoy the rest of your night.
Good night, everybody.